While stadiums are packed with people losing their minds, screaming at referees, and letting their entire weekend be ruined by a ball crossing a line, there is a massive, silent majority sitting at home, feeling absolutely nothing. And if you are one of those people, neuroscience suggests your brain is fundamentally wired in a completely different way. Stay with me, because the science I am going to share will completely shift how you view the sports fanatics in your life. The truth that no one mentions is this: your lack of interest in sports does not mean you are dull. It doesn't mean you lack enthusiasm, and it certainly doesn't mean your brain is broken. However, there is a fascinating neurological divergence happening inside your head that separates you from the 60% of people who follow sports religiously. Let us begin with the core question: why do fans get so intensely invested? Humans are inherently tribal beings. For millennia, belonging to a tight-knit community was the only way to survive. Your clan provided safety, shared food, and kept predators at bay. Today, professional sports act as an evolutionary hack. They are modern-day tribes with expensive merchandise. When a fan watches their favorite team play, their brain gets flooded with oxytocin. This is the exact same bonding chemical that makes you feel deep affection for your family. It is crazy to think about, but their neurology literally tricks them into believing these highly paid athletes are their kin. But here is where the divergence occurs. Individuals who remain indifferent to sports typically possess what researchers describe as decreased tribal dependency. Their sense of self is not anchored to a collective identity. They lean heavily toward individualism. They are far more likely to subconsciously feel, "I do not require a massive group to validate my existence." Psychological studies back this up. A recent behavioral study indicated that those with minimal interest in spectator sports display significantly lower levels of polarized us versus them mentalities. In simple terms, they do not instinctively view someone as an enemy just because they are wearing a different jersey. But the neurological differences go even deeper, because what happens inside a fanatic's brain during a live game is almost alarming. Consider the rush of excitement right before you unwrap a gift. That sheer anticipation is dopamine surging through your neural pathways. Devoted fans receive that identical chemical hit continuously during a match. Every pass, every shot offers a microdose of intense anticipation followed by a reward. It operates exactly like an addiction. Functional MRI scans demonstrate that observing your preferred team stimulates the exact same reward circuitry as gambling and other highly habit-forming behaviors. And the absolute key to this addiction is the unpredictability. Because the final score is unknown, the dopamine keeps spiking. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, which is notoriously the most powerful behavioral hook in existence, the very same mechanism that keeps people glued to slot machines. Your brain hardly cares where the dopamine originates. It simply craves the rush. For people who do not care about sports, their internal reward systems are essentially immune to this vicarious competition. And intriguingly, this immunity might be inherited. Genetic research points to specific variations in dopamine receptor genes that heavily influence whether a person will find spectator sports stimulating. Think about that. Your total apathy toward the championship game might literally be hardwired into your DNA. Then we have a psychological phenomenon known as burgeoning, or basking in reflected glory. When a sports team secures a win, fans will inevitably declare, "We won." But if the team suffers a defeat, they pivot to, "They lost." Notice the pronoun shift. People who ignore sports rarely use this psychological distancing. Their self-image is much more unified. They do not rely on the achievements of strangers to feel successful. Their self-worth remains steady, insulated from external events, taking place entirely outside their control. Now, I am not declaring one mindset superior to the other, but understanding these deep-rooted psychological contrasts is fascinating. For instance, die-hard fans frequently demonstrate high levels of specific empathy. They actively practice feeling intense compassion for the struggles of athletes they have never actually met. So why don't non-fans feel that same emotional pull? It is a matter of empathy allocation. Every human has a finite reservoir of deep emotional energy. Those who skip the weekend games usually channel their empathy into entirely different domains: profound personal relationships, social causes, artistic endeavors, or complex intellectual pursuits. Studies tracking personality traits show that individuals who score low in sports interest simultaneously score exceptionally high in openness to experience and appreciation for aesthetics. They are chasing the exact same human desires for transcendence, connection, and meaning. They are simply finding it somewhere else. Let's also address something else. Sometimes a lack of interest in sports stems from being a defense mechanism. Perhaps you felt alienated by the hyper-competitive culture in school. Maybe you are actively rejecting the toxic aggression that occasionally bleeds into sports fandom. Or perhaps you genuinely just find watching grown adults scream over a ball excruciatingly dull. Your indifference has a backstory, and it is entirely valid. But the primary divide between fans and non-fans usually boils down to how they perceive meaning. A fanatic discovers profound meaning in the narrative arc, the comebacks, the rivalries, the underdog triumphs. It feels like real-life drama with actual stakes. Conversely, a non-fan looks at the exact same game and sees meaningless, randomized chaos. They wonder, why should I exhaust my emotional reserves on an uncontrollable event that has zero impact on my actual daily life? They are not wrong, but neither are the fans. It is just two different approaches to the human need for storytelling. One group finds an epic narrative in a championship run. The other finds it in a novel, a relationship, or a creative project. Psychologists refer to this as parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Fans construct one-sided emotional bonds with teams. Non-fans prefer to invest their energy where there is tangible reciprocity, where their personal actions directly influence the final outcome, where they are participants rather than spectators. Neither is superior. They are just different strategies for navigating life. Researchers who study flow, that state of absolute mental immersion, confirm that humans can achieve this peak state through endless avenues. For some, it is watching sports. For others, it is literally anything else. And here is what is truly empowering. People who do not obsess over sports frequently report feeling much more present in their own reality. They are not dedicating 3 hours every single Sunday to experiencing someone else's struggle. They are engaged in their own. So, what is the final takeaway? If you completely tune out when the conversation turns to sports, you are not missing out on a fundamental human experience. You are just different. Your brain's reward centers, your tribal dependencies, and your empathy distributions are simply calibrated to a different frequency. And that is perfectly okay. The next time someone asks, "Did you catch the game?" and your mind goes blank, remember, you are not broken. You are not boring. You are simply participating in an entirely different game, one that might just have infinitely higher stakes. If this psychological breakdown resonated with you, you will definitely want to understand why quiet people process external stimuli completely differently than everyone else, and why that might be their biggest advantage. Click the video on your screen right now to uncover why thinking differently is your ultimate superpower.